Welcome back, and thanks once again for joining me on the podcast. Today's guest is David Rycyna, and he heads up a company called Cirrus that creates the most incredible digital signage. Now, we're going to talk all about the importance of visibility and really setting your restaurant apart from the competition. We're going to talk about driving guest engagement and increasing traffic to your restaurant and the power of changeable messages. Now, when I ran restaurants, this was super important, but you can pre-program these signs on the fly from any device, from your computer, from your phone. You can put amazing graphics in your logos and your colors. These signs can be customized to mirror your beautiful building, your location, regardless of your concept. But it is a competitive advantage. But most importantly, it is an investment in increased sales, increased awareness, brand building, and setting yourself apart from the competition. So you're not going to want to miss this episode. Thanks so much to our audience for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors. Now, on with the episode.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Beaudoin.
Everyone has a birthday, and people celebrate birthdays in restaurants. Birthdays bring larger parties that spend 40% more on the guest check. Plus, most birthdays happen in the middle of the week when you want more business. Are you getting this? Larger parties, larger checks, midweek business traffic? Is your restaurant capturing the birthday business? If not, don't let these birthday celebrations go to the competition. The Birthday Club is a done-for-you, soup-to-nuts service where they handle everything and send you the birthday business. It's a piece of cake. Go to jointhebirthdayclub.com/birthdayrockstar. Every restaurant needs signage that attracts attention and brings in the customers. Cirrus LED signs bring your business to life and increase customer traffic and sales. Cirrus's high-resolution LED technology is energy efficient and ensures maximum visibility for your operation. Cirrus signs are versatile and allow easy changing of content and displays. Best of all, with Cirrus, you can subscribe to pay with low monthly payments and no upfront costs. And now my listeners get the first 2 months free. Go to try.cirrusled.com/rockstar. That's try.cirrusled.com/rockstar. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Thanks for being with us. David, welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Now, this is awesome. We're going to talk all about restaurant signage because that is absolutely essential to driving guest traffic and building a brand and all those things. But before we do, tell us about your hospitality story. Did you ever work in a restaurant?
My first job, 8th grade, Oliver's Restaurant in Buffalo, New York. They were at the time, and last I checked, probably still going strong. But at the time, they were the premier fine dining experience in the small city of Buffalo. And I started off working catering jobs on the weekends. I was an 8th grader at the time, worked up until I graduated high school, just nonstop. Did think every job in the restaurant short of bartending and waiting the tables. I wasn't polished enough to wait the tables, but they stuck me in every other job there, parking cars, busing, coat check. Coat check was where the money was for a 13-year-old. A lot of tips.
Wow.
In the coat room.
You were parking cars too at a young age?
Yeah, as soon as I had my driver's license, I distinctly remember getting into a car that was stick shift, and I had no experience driving a stick. I got it into neutral as it rolled down almost into the street while revving the engine. No idea what I was doing.
Oh my God.
And the owner anxiously ran over, slamming on the windows.
Oh, this is great.
And then he politely parked the car himself. So, yeah.
What a learning lesson that must have been. Let me ask you, if it was a fine dining place, as a young person, did hospitality rub off on you? Did it shape your life in any way? Because that's the foundation of our business. And I know in my own experience that happened to me. And especially when you're in a position where you're getting gratuities, it should be a natural thing to provide great service to people as a point of pride. But I think when you start getting tons of money thrown at you, it changes your perspective. But was there any special training in this restaurant for you on how to relate to the guest or any of that kind of stuff, or how to treat people? Do you remember?
I think for me, it was incredibly formative in that it was my first, you don't know what work is until you go out and do it. And you don't know what service is and really great service until you see it. And in that restaurant in particular, there was a culture of, and I'll steal Will Guidara's phrase, unreasonable hospitality. It was every single detail needed to be perfect. And it actually plagues me to this day because it was like a very traditional service. So you did not clear from the left-hand side, right? You clear from the right,
Yes.
serve from the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Placement on the table, like all of those basics that were I learned at that time and were just a manifestation of that crew and their attention to detail and how perfect they wanted the experience to be. That rubbed off. I mean, again, I'd say it plagues me to this day because it's hard to find those things in a restaurant today that certainly exist. And when you see people who follow that traditional and rigorous type of service, it just makes the experience all that much more special. But yeah, I was very lucky in that it was my first job and I got to see that up close and personal. And I was this little pipsqueak kid and they were hospitality professionals. And so they weren't the kindest in a restaurant. Nobody has time to really hold your hand and get you up to speed.
Yep.
Yeah. They're not getting you up to speed slowly. You're getting cursed out in the kitchen because of something that you didn't do right. But I loved it and I adapted to it. And then I was clicking right along with them. And I think that was an incredible first job. I think it shaped my own expectations today of myself and others in my work.
How did you get into the signage industry?
That's a long story. Goes back to college. I was a competitive athlete. I never went abroad like a lot of my classmates did. And I had a bug of travel. I had a bug to learn other languages and through a circuitous path ended up in Asia. I was in China for about 6 years living there. And over that time, I always wanted to do something physical, not either construction or manufacturing. I didn't know much about manufacturing, so I didn't know how to get into it. But being in China, and particularly from 2007 forward, there was just a lot of the world's factory, right?
Of course.
So
yeah, I can see the connection.
yeah. And being in manufacturing, you learn, I started off as a generalist. I was providing a service for US companies that wanted to have components or products manufactured overseas. I had a little office and their guy in China. It's really how I got started. And that evolved into me really becoming passionate about electronics. When you dig into electronics, then if you're a geek like me, you realize that it's the ultimate creative thing, developing something where you've got software, firmware, circuit boards. There almost is nothing that you can't build. And so I became passionate about electronics and caught the bug for big, bright, incredible looking LED screens. And that was it. I created Cirrus while I was still over there, moved back to the US to grow the company. That was about 12 or 13 years ago. And then it's been a journey ever since.
So 12 years now, and the company has grown, obviously. Did you start out with restaurant signs? Obviously, you're in multiple industries, but is restaurants a big presence for your company?
So it certainly is today. It is probably the single largest cohort of customers that we service today. But that wasn't always the case. I think when people start companies for a lot of reasons, I think the best reasons are there's a need that they're looking to fulfill. I came into it a little bit backward, which I don't recommend, but I fell in love with a product, with a system, with building something. And then I went to find a market for it. And I think that was a happy coincidence in that building electronics that go outdoors, it takes some time to get it right. So we had time on our side to find a market. And for the most part, we were selling wholesale. So it was fabricators and installers in local market. We'd be knocking on their door, selling them screens, and those, whoever their customers were, we'd be fulfilling screens for. So certainly a lot of restaurants, actually the first screen we ever sold was Red's Tavern on Route 1, just north of Boston. That was the first one that ever went up. So I guess from the beginning, we were doing restaurants, but it was more by accident as opposed to today, where our business has shifted to a hardware as a service model. And we're courting restaurants specifically because I think the products, the model, it really lends itself to the needs that restaurants have.
Let's talk to what makes a really effective sign for our industry. If you're a restaurant, what is the most important thing and what are the elements that go into creating a custom Cirrus sign for a particular restaurant?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, and it's not the most astounding answer, but visibility is something that people uh, take for granted. At its core, what we are and what we provide is we're a marketing medium. We are an extremely effective, both in terms of cost and in terms of reach, marketing medium. And many, particularly restaurateurs, but every business is guilty of this. There's that if I build it, they will come type mentality. And then the getting your name out there is an afterthought. It's like waiting for that reviewer to show up and write about you and hope that everything goes well. Or we're just the 3 people that came in last week will go spread the word to their friends, or we set up a Facebook page and away we go. But if you think of what a restaurant has invested in their business, like one of the biggest investment is that lease or that physical location, and predominantly the cost that they're incurring is going to be proportional to the amount of traffic that's going by. Highly trafficked areas are going to command higher dollars. So they're already investing in that location and the idea and investing in that traffic. And so then how do you maximize that investment? Time to attract some eyeballs. It's time to draw that foot traffic in. It's time to be welcoming on the outside, because certainly everyone aspires to, through what they're offering in terms of their hospitality, to be welcoming on the inside. The eyeballs are outside, giving some thought to that, and just being there, just having that digital sign, you're inherently grabbing more attention. And now where we go from there is the fine tuning, right? That's what type of content is going up, or the messaging, or an event. There's a lunch. You get a lot of restaurants flipping back and forth between, are they doing a lunch service or are they not? Are they closed for lunch, right? How do you let people know with the flashing open sign in the window? Monetizing lunch is, for some restaurants, that's a great opportunity. Are we going to let people know that it's Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays and not Mondays and Tuesdays, and not frustrate people with showing up to the door, getting out of the car and, oh, they're closed? So yeah, we could go into a lot of different components of it, but I think the first and most powerful one is just to show up and have that screen that's grabbing attention outside the.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, David, because when I owned restaurants, I was obsessed with visibility. We had a big building and it sat up on a hill, but it had 1,200 feet of frontage on a main road. But I always wanted it to stand apart from the competition. And we had fixed signage. They weren't digital signs, and I sold them back in 2014. And I know that if I was still in the business, I would be all over digital signage because of the convenience factor, because of the changeability and the ease of doing so. But I found that what was really important was having changeable. We used to have fixed signs that talked about who we were and the brand and the logo and all that kind of stuff, and that was fine. But I also had a changeable, like those plastic channels and the plastic letters, which is ridiculous to say now. But again, that was 10 years ago. And we had to have someone every single day in all kinds of weather conditions go down to the road and change the sign on a daily basis, because we were all about catchy messages that would catch the attention of the traffic driving by. And it worked for us just great, but what a hassle. And now there's digital LED technology where you can change the message on the fly. You can have a graphic. You can have something that's visual in addition to text and logos and colors. How powerful is that? So I'm glad you brought that up, because one, visibility is important. You should never take that for granted. But now we're also talking about the importance of building a brand for your restaurant, and not just running a restaurant, running a business and building a brand. And I'm seeing where signage can play such a part in brand building, because it's probably the biggest medium that you have. Certainly your menu is important, but a menu is this big and a sign can be huge, right? So brand building is super important. What would the process be? Say, I'm interested, I'm an audience listener right now to the podcast, and I know I need a new sign, and I'm interested in convenience and energy efficiency and all that kind of stuff. Where do we begin? Do I have a dedicated sort of account person that I feed my ideas to, and then you have a graphics department that comes up with all the ideas and based on budgets and all that? I don't want to tell you, but please answer that question. What would the process look like and the timeline? How long would this whole process take?
Yeah, to get it installed.
Yeah, exactly. From design, from conceptualization with the idea to refining what it can do to the budget to final installation. Like how much time? Is there a typical time involved?
It can go very quick or it can go very slowly. And that really is dependent on your local government structure. The way that we do things, because there's signages can be very simple. It can be a little bit tricky, right? We're physically installing something. Everyone's aware they renovated their restaurant, renovated kitchen, right? You're moving physical stuff. It takes, supply chain and installers and whatnot.
Of course.
Signage is just like that. We have the added wrinkle of there's generally a permit that's required as a going outdoors, and we have to meet all of whatever the local requirements are.
Yeah, the
and
sign
that
ordinances.
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that completely changes from where you are. Like I know, Roger, you're in Maine. Portland is going to have completely different rules than Falmouth. You cross over that border into Falmouth and it's night and day difference. And so we try to make all of that as simple as possible because that's our gig. We're the experts in smoothing that out, and being around as long as we have. We also have a great network of permitting companies and fabricators and installers and whatnot. So the way that it happens with us is all turnkey. So you talk to a salesperson from Cirrus. We do 5-year term. You pay the first and last month down, and now we go to work. We go file your permit for you. We create all the construction documents to go into that. We ship everything out. We coordinate the install, and it's off and running. In the meantime, to get to the question of how you manage it and what can be done with it, in the meantime, our team does a software training, gets you up to speed. Our platform is called Screen. And
Thank you.
GreenHub is built for managing and scheduling content within that screen, all sorts of ways of bringing data in. But like going back to what you said about the movable copy, I think having even that is phenomenal compared to a typical static sign, because it is about branding and you're able to express who you are through those words. Maybe you get those little on the sidewalk, like the chalkboards, and everybody writes like witty things on them, and it's like an arms race of wit out there to draw
Exactly.
people in. But it shows that warmth. It shows like there's personality in this establishment. And how can you get more of that? You can go a long way with the movable text. You can go further with a digital screen because it's like multimodal, right? Where it's not just simple lines of text, but you can do video, you can do images, you can do the product, right? The food can be on there. Your people can be on there. This is also restaurants. Obviously, the challenges aren't always just driving in more customers, but it's like, how can you honor your team and make them feel special about the place that they go to work at? Because we all know that the labor challenges that restaurants face and employee retention is important. And again, like now that you're also projecting that personality and that like care for your team out to the customers that are driving by. So it's a blank canvas that you're able to project your brand onto. Our job is to give you the simplest tools to be able to do that and then get out of the way. You can log in from your phone from anywhere and update one screen, 100 screens, the tools for, creating everything and laying it out. We have dedicated employees that you can call anytime and they'll take you on a training through it. But the goal is you don't have to call any good software product today. You shouldn't have to call anybody to figure out how to do it. And that intuitiveness is important and part of our design ethos and product development. Yeah, it's about giving the tools to make it function, make it run and make it easy. But ultimately it's about your personality, your brand, your business, and your employees.
What makes digital technology work depending on the time of day, depending on the siting of the restaurant and where the sun is at any given point? Obviously, something is really visible at night, but during the day in different light conditions, is there any part of the technology that sort of minimizes the effects of daylight or sun? Is it just as visible during the day as nighttime?
Yeah, definitely. Look, sun is that's a pretty big light source to compete with when you're a light source yourself, trying to be a
Hmm.
screen that's visible.
Yeah.
So number one is use high quality components that shine bright, right? A lot more goes into the engineering of what surrounds that light coming off the LED display than you would think, though. Everyone thinks, okay, it's brighter LEDs make for a brighter sign.
Hmm.
Actually, the eye is quite attuned to contrast. And so the surface of the screen actually has all sorts of nooks and crannies and edges and whatnot, louvers that go across to scatter the light from the sun so that the light from the sun is not bouncing off the screen and going back into your eye. But the LEDs, it's just the light from the LEDs that are going and hitting the eye. Yeah, we could nerd out all day about that, or pinhole effects, right? You want your light source to be really small compared to a very black, dark surface. That just the human eye is oddly deficient at detecting some things, but when it comes to light, we are freakish capable of detecting what's going on. One example to call up is if you pass a screen and an LED is out, right? There might be 10,000 individual LEDs that are on that surface, but your eye goes right to the one that's out. And that we've been talking about branding and looking good. If you're running a restaurant, if there's a hole opened up in the ground, you don't leave it there, right? That looks terrible. You
Course.
want a
Yep.
professional looking environment. Same thing with the screen outside. If a diode goes out, everybody's going to notice it. And you look that much worse. Your brand is impacted.
Compromised, yeah. Let me ask
So
you, with that in mind, is there any kind of routine maintenance that has to happen? Is there sort of a usable life before certain things need to be replaced? Let's talk about that because I know it's super energy efficient. LED technology is energy efficient. Is that technology changing at all, David? Is it improving over time or do you see it being fixed? And what about the maintenance issue and the life?
yeah, cool. You want a screen that's solid state, no moving parts, no fans, anything like that. That's
Mhm.
what our system is. That's the most serviceable thing. You get some other junky screens out there that need fans. So you don't want moving parts, number one. Number two, the technology is getting better every day, right? It's an LED at its core is a semiconductor. So just like the chips that are powering computers and things like that, there are advancements in semiconductor manufacturing that are being felt everywhere. And so the LED industry gets the benefit of a lot of that investment. So it's getting better every day. Energy efficiency getting better, brightness getting better, color quality getting better, all those sorts of things. In terms of the serviceability, like what I was mentioning about an LED going out, one of the things our software does is routinely monitoring the health of everything going on the screen, including one LED fails. You'll actually be notified in our system. Our
Oh,
support team will be notified.
like,
So you get that protection of knowing your customers aren't the ones who are the first to notice it passing by.
I love
Um,
that. Yep.
you get that brand protection. Yeah, there's the technology is getting better every day. It's one of the things that makes it so exciting for us running the business. But there's all sorts of safeguards to make sure you're looking your best at all times.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. I used to have this sort of mantra, see what the guest sees before they see it and fix it. And I
Yeah,
empowered all my team to walk through the front door, notice things before we open for business and fix it. And I'm hearing, okay, you get notified. That's great because you don't want that negative impression going by. So you're heading it off at the pass. I think that's a great benefit. What about artificial intelligence? Is that entering into signage right now? Rockstars. In my restaurants, the fried foods were cranking out of the kitchen. But dealing with the fryer oil and cleaning hoods from all that grease, what a hassle. Not only the high cost, but the mess of changing and recycling oil, scheduling cleanings. You've got more important things to run a great restaurant. Well, that's where Restaurant Technologies comes in. They serve 40,000 restaurant and hospitality customers in 41 major markets across the U.S. They handle everything end to end, from delivering, filtering, monitoring, collecting, and recycling your waste cooking oil. No more mess, safety hazards, workers' comp claims, or fried food quality issues. Plus, this frees up your labor and the cost to work on what matters, putting out the best food. Restaurant Technologies also eliminates the need for scheduling third-party hood cleanings. AutoMist can reduce the risk of fire with automated hood and flue cleaning, hassle-free. Restaurant Technologies customers can save 10 to 15% on their insurance premiums and even get bonuses for any new customer referrals. Control the kitchen chaos with Restaurant Technologies. Go to rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639 to get started today. When I needed equipment from my former restaurants, I called Restaurant Equippers. Restaurant Equippers has served independent food service operators just like you going on 60 years. You'll find all the top names and extensive inventory at their huge warehouse stores in Ohio, Michigan, and New Jersey. You can shop equippers.com or call their national order office at 800-235-3325. Their experienced specialists will help you get the best equipment and supplies and save you money. Thousands of name brand products are available for immediate store pickup or shipment. Just like me, when you need something, you need it now. Restaurant Equippers will make sure you get the equipment and supplies you need when you need them at a price you want to pay. They shop the world to find the best products and value. Give Restaurant Equippers a call for all your equipment and supply needs, or check their website, equippers.com.
It's in our signs.
It is. Tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. So we recently launched a camera-based feature where this is a marketing medium, right? So let's start with the why. It's about turning heads, and it's about getting engagement and getting attention, right?
Absolutely.
What we built is a system where we're tracking the vehicles that are passing by. You get some benefits just off the bat. You know your traffic. You know how many cars are pulling by. You know who's pulling into your driveway, that sort of thing. Our system is actually able to detect the make and model of the vehicle, the color of the vehicle, the license plate of the vehicle, including the state that it's from. Like this time of year, you're up in Maine, a lot of tourists driving up the East Coast, and you can say, hey, welcome,
that time of year.
Welcome in from Florida, welcome in from New York, welcome. I live in New Hampshire, so I see them too. They sometimes do a stop off in Portsmouth, where I am, before they continue north to some of the best restaurants in New England, right? So yeah, we're detecting the license plate, and we're able to take that data. Okay, yeah, data. That's cool. What am I going to do with that? We take that data, and you're able to write little recipes for yourself of, if a pickup truck drives by, display this message. If a motorcycle drives by, display this message. And that, I think, is where our customers' creativity really comes out, because again, it's about creating tools that people get to use to empower their own creativity and their own brand. But like, you and I could sit here right now and spitball what we would want to say, something funny for motorcycle drivers. Guess what? That's going to get their attention. When it says,
yep,
hey, welcome in from New York, like, this is the best restaurant in Maine. How do they know I'm from New York? And then, oh, it must be the license plate. But it's that eye-catching moment, and it's done all in real time. It takes, I think it's about a quarter of a second between vehicle detection and a new image going up on the screen. Yeah, that's, if you think of, as we do, if you think of yourself as a marketing platform, we want to be a marketing tool for businesses. What would you provide them? And for me, we're the real world analog of what's going on a website. What do you want to know on a website? You want to know who your users are. You want to A/B test and be adaptive to what's going on. You want to maximize the impact and that draw, and ultimately get that conversion at the end of the day. And in the real world, if you're a restaurant that has a parking lot, like, your parking lot traffic is conversion traffic. We have another tool that will actually count people coming through the door and correlate that to the content.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. So
I had no idea.
That's
powerful
for us.
stuff.
That's
And
business.
it's one thing to collect the data. It's another thing to use it and apply it. but it's like, what a tool that is. Wow. I had no idea you could do that. That's tremendous.
Yeah, I think data can be really tiring for a lot of who has time
It's
to
one more
like
thing to do. I know.
look at reams of data and, oh, okay, we need like our data analytic team to come through and come up with something actionable. No, this is like real time actionable and usable, and with the intent of drawing attention and showing your brand and drawing people through the door. That's what it's all about.
Terrific. Let's talk a little bit about pre-programming. Is it possible to pre-program a certain day and a certain time, maybe even every single week? If I've got a special promotion on a Tuesday and a Thursday, can it know that at 10 o'clock on a Monday, it's going to promote Tuesday's events and all that kind of stuff? Is it that flexible?
Definitely. Yeah. You can program it down, I think, second by second if you really wanted to. There's a calendar function. You create your content in group called a playlist. Think of it as like a PowerPoint slide deck, right? You
Yeah.
got 5 slides and it's going to rotate through. And so you can do multiples, and then there's a calendar. You just drag and drop them onto the calendar. And it's, again, it's just meant to be user friendly and easy. Yeah, you can do down to the minute and way into the future what you want playing at what time. You might have one basic group of messages that's running 24/7, but then when you're open, you have a different set. And then every other Tuesday, you have a special event, and you can set that up in advance and just have it propagate out into the future really easily.
Sounds like it's a learn by doing thing. It's probably got a quick and easy learning curve, but obviously your dedicated person that would work with me would teach me the ins and outs and even maybe give me some proven tactics on how successful restaurants have used this sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely benefit of individuals dedicated to doing just that. They're creating content all day long and working with business owners all day long. So tons of experience in what's been successful. And for a lot of our customers, they're really the manifestation of us in terms of our hospitality that we're providing to our customers. They're the tip of the spear, usually the one that has the most contact with all of our customers. Because something comes up, they'll have an issue, that, that the email address, that's the phone number that they're going to say, hey, give me a hand here. And we jump in, and we do that for the lifetime of the product.
Fantastic. So dedicated support as long as you own it. What about, is it possible, because obviously a lot of restaurants are in a lease situation, and sometimes the unexpected happens where the landlord doesn't renew the lease and certain fixtures that are part of the property now become the property of the landlord and all that sort of stuff. Do you help restaurants avoid those challenges? Are your signages ever designed to be portable so you can take it with you, but obviously the size of it may determine that? Just something that popped into my head because that would be an important consideration if I'm not going to
Yeah,
be in a space forever and I'm going to move my business someday.
yeah. Generally, they're designed to stay fit,
Yeah,
um,
it's a fixed thing.
stay in one spot. And so moving them can be done. We're not crazy about it. Generally, whenever you're updating signage, installing new signage, there's like a landlord approval process. Generally, to file the permit, actually, the municipality will require the landlord to sign off. That's part of some permits are fascinating. We serve all of North America, really.
Yeah.
You have areas where they're quite literally lawless. You can do whatever you want.
The
Nobody's
Wild
checking,
West.
nobody's whatever. Yeah. And then a lot of times part of the process is there's a landlord sign off. And so they're pretty much accepting that, yeah, this is going to become a part of their property, given somebody moving on or whatnot. So options exist. We work with people every day on those types of challenges for sure.
Any other challenges that have come up in the past that we haven't already talked about in terms of implementing the signage, or once it's up, anything that's going on once you've got it going? Or is it pretty
I
much set it
mean,
and forget it, and it's really a turnkey thing that you can program it or not, you can do it on the fly kind of thing?
yeah, at the end of the day, a lot has gone into just making sure the thing looks great and it functions for a very long time. And that whenever you go big with electronics and you're pulling in lots of power and stuff like that, stuff happens that most of us aren't accustomed to when our relationship to electricity of like plugging in our phone to charging every night. And over the years, there's so much intelligence and development that's gone into moderating power sensors to, if there's a surge in your neighborhood, you don't have a fried screen that an electrical storm took down or something like that. There's all sorts of safeguards and things like that. They aren't even worth bringing up, but at the end of the day, it's just, yeah, my investment's secure. This thing's going to work every day, going to be rock solid. Like that's what people want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, yeah. And yeah, under the hood, a lot of stuff went on to get us to the point of being able to really confidently say that this thing's going to be rock solid.
I would assume that the screens themselves are highly impact resistant. If there's a hailstorm blowing sideways with baseball size hail, can the technology ever be compromised? Can the actual hardware be scratched or broken or cracked or any of that kind of stuff? Does that ever happen? Or is it really like you got to hit this thing with a 22 caliber rifle to damage it? I don't know. Tell me.
I was building a company, you do all sorts of interesting marketing stunts. And I'll bring it back to Maine again. One of our earliest employees, Dan Kurlick, actually won the national championship at UMaine in hockey back in 1998. So
it's a
give
big
shout
hockey
out to
team
him
in
there.
UMaine.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He was on the winning squad there. And as one does to demonstrate durability,
Love it.
we actually set him up with a screen and he was taking slap shots.
I was just about to guess. Is he taking slap shots at your signs? This is awesome. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, what a promotion. What a demonstration.
The videos are on YouTube.
That's cool.
And I think he started doing it and he wasn't
that's
sure.
That's a hook right there. That's definitely a sales benefit and a hook and catchy. And yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Nice.
Definitely.
David, what about aesthetics for a certain concept or a building in terms of the materials of the construction? You mentioned you've got teams and crews and companies across the country that actually erect these signs, and design of the materials is important. But let's just say maybe I've got a really contemporary metal and glass building, and obviously that seems very easily adaptable to your signs. But what if I have an old-fashioned log cabin and it looks like the Beverly Hillbillies? Can they make something look really funky even though the technology is built into it, but it's like rustic wood frames and all this? Is it that versatile? Can you do just about anything you think of?
You can do anything. That's
awesome.
That's one of the cool things about the sign industry. Like I think up on our homepage is I'm thinking of a restaurant and they have an old time car integrated with an LED display that makes up a sign, right? Like quite literally anything can be done. And it's amazing to see what people come up with. And there is that level of customization out there. Yeah. The screen itself, like that's a blank canvas, right? You can style that in the content within it, however you like. But then it's a lot of people in the sign industry, they fancy themselves more akin to artists than anything else. And you will see some of the most talented and creative individuals out there who love a challenge. And if you can dream of it, we can find somebody to build it for you, for sure.
Where's the future of Cirrus going? You got new products in the pipeline? Any brand extensions besides signage? What do you see coming, and what will you be offering that you're not offering now?
Yeah, I'm dying to do an API integration with OpenTable, and I can't seem to make any headway on that business development behind that deal. I happen to be married to the CEO of OpenTable, but I've just been getting stonewalled on access to the API. But the concept there
I see that
is a restaurant on OpenTable. And if there's table availability or what the next available table is, it automatically updates on the screen. So I think we might go try to do a deal with one of OpenTable's competitors just to egg them along. But I think that's in our future. But in all seriousness, I think it's a really straightforward path for us. The cost of sensors is going down. the sophistication of AI algorithms is going up. You can run them on tiny chips. The system I was describing earlier that detects what types of vehicles are passing by, all of that AI is run on an edge chip that sits inside the camera. That's not like going to some data sensor somewhere and then being beamed back out. It's a tiny edge processor that does that. When you think of the built environment and what you can do with super low cost sensors, super low cost processing, and digital signage, because again, it's about making things actionable and real, not okay, we're collecting mounds of data and what do we do with it, but making it into something that creates an instant reaction and impacts somebody pulling in or somebody staying longer or someone even buying decisions. Like we did a case study. This was with a McDonald's where they would use their screen. They had six locations. We did digital screens at two of them, and they were pitching how McDonald's will roll out their latest concoction that they're pushing in advertising or whatnot. I think at the time it was a chicken sandwich of some kind, right? You could actually influence buyers' decision-making with what you put up on the screen. Of those six locations, the two with digital screens that were talking about that chicken sandwich, like chicken sandwich sales were up 200% relative to the other stores. So influencing buying decisions is a big part of this. Going back to the future, it's unifying these things in a simple and an implementable way, but yeah, just doing more of it, doing more sophisticated things. We're always trying to push down costs as well and increase value. I think that's a big part of how we've grown to date.
Absolutely.
If we can pass that value on by driving down costs, that's a big part of it. But yeah, everyone at this point starts making jokes about Minority Report and headed to that world. But I think some of the Minority Report stuff is a little spooky, but I think we'll run down the good parts of it.
We've covered a lot of ground today, David, but I'm sure maybe there's some things you'd still like to talk about. Have I missed anything? Do you want to say anything else about the company, about the technology, about what's great about Cirrus? I've seen a win so far.
Yeah, I think just going back to what I was saying about passing on as much value as possible in reducing those costs. One of the things we've been able to do was product innovation, but we've innovated on the business model side. So I know we mentioned it at the beginning. Typically, when you go out to do signage like what we're talking about, you can be looking at $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, right? It's a chunk of change.
It is.
And think of it as a construction project, right? Like construction's expensive in most places. One of the things that we did and I think it's led to a lot of our growth, is innovating on the business model side, where we're able to roll everything into a more manageable monthly fee. Again, us as a marketing medium, let's price it like it's a marketing medium. If you're buying Google AdWords, for example, you're not paying for the next 5 years of Google AdWords today and doing it all up front. So, why should you do that with your signage? And we've found a way to create something that can be bundled into a really palatable monthly fee. We turnkey it, get it set up. Restaurants get the benefit of the increased, and they're able to use that to offset that monthly cost. By doing so, we have something that's pretty enticing. It's an ROI positive investment from the beginning. You're really never underwater on it. And it's one of the most effective ways of increasing revenue, right?
No question about it.
Yeah. And we think that's something you really don't find anywhere else. I think that's a really key component here to focus on, is like, how affordable is it? What am I out of pocket? What's the risk into this? Ultimately, you're increasing your cash flow from day one, because when you're a marketing medium, as we are, you're not generating value. You're not driving more revenue for businesses. You don't really have a right to exist. And that's something that we do consistently across a number of.
Glad you mentioned that also, because there is a mindset that I'm on a mission to shift. There are things that are costs, and then there are things that are investments. And unfortunately, operators get really close to the money and they think, oh, this is just another expense, when in reality, something that has a ROI to it is an investment in the future. And you got to look at the big picture. And like what you just said, you're making it as easy as possible for someone to get in the game, have something really big, really impressive that's going to drive engagement. It's going to drive awareness. It's going to drive traffic. It's going to increase sales. That to me is an investment. So I'm really glad you shared that. And we can do one even better. Besides the no upfronts and the low monthly payments, you're offering my audience the first 2 months free, which is awesome if they go to your special URL. So check it out. David, it's been my pleasure having you on the show. We learned all about signage. It's fantastic. Man, if I was still in the business, I'd be the first to sign up. I'd get one of those things.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Roger.
My pleasure hosting you on the show. That was the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Can't wait to see you in the next episode, so stay tuned and stay well. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our sponsors of the show, including Cirrus. Listen, you need 3 things: knowing your critical numbers, sales training, and driving new and repeat business. You can now teach your staff 24/7 to run your business and boost sales and profits as if they owned it with our online Restaurant Academy. Right now, the Restaurant Academy is only $59 a month that includes access for you and up to 25 members of your team. And for a limited time, our new Academy members can get 15% off every month using the code podcast15 at checkout. Go to restaurantrockstars.com/join academy. Again, that code is podcast15.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.